Okay, hello. So let's continue. Last time we left off as when we finish setting up our project, putting it onto GitHub and Vercel. Let's continue on testing whether we can access the data from our Redis database. Okay, so this is going to be simple. We're just going to add a username onto our Redis database and then try to retrieve it and show it up on our task list page to see what is the username what is task list for. Okay, um, so far we have been playing with client component in Next.js, most of them. You will see that by the fact that I'm do use client on most of the pages and most of the component. Okay, um, to connect to Redis database. This time we're going to use another, let's say, component from in Next.js. This thing is called route handler. Okay. You can look at some description on the slide if you like. Um, for the route handler, the idea is that it will act as a URL. You can call to that URL. It will act as an endpoint, so you can connect to this API. It will act as an API that you can call, and it will do something for you, and you can call it right from your next application, or you can actually call it from outside as well. For example, if you have mobile application and you want to access this database, we can share the same API. Okay. um so the way that we're going to do is we're going to create a folder called API. Okay. As we know, in Next.js, our router is file based. Okay. So the path to this API going to be how we call it later on. Okay. And here, the route handler, route handler will have the name router.ts. Okay, so that's the standard name. So when you call this path, it will go to this file. It will try to look for this file. Here, to access the database, to make a request. Okay. And actually not make a request, to make it able to receive requests, and to be able to send a response, because this is an endpoint. So it will take a request and then it respond with something. We're going to use two object. Let's say it's object from next. This is called next request and next response. So we're going to import it. Okay, this one. If you want to read the documentation here, you can see the documentation of next request. On the API, you can go to next.js doc. Okay, and the other one, we're going to use next response. So basically, this is a class that extend the standard HTTP request, HTTP response. So basically, we used to have request and response object in TypeScript already. So this extended to make it easier to use. Okay, and we're going to connect to Redis. So the next class that we need to import would be get Redis client. Okay. And you would notice that it's not coming up. Because I hasn't installed it yet. Okay, so I would need to actually, I forget that step. So we're going to need to install the Redis library first. Okay. The library that we're going to use going to be the standard Redis client. There's a few Redis library that you can use with Next.js. Um, okay, there's a few. There's a few Redis. We're going to use the standard one. We're going to use the standard one. Um, So I'm looking for the library name so that you can see, but for some reason this doesn't show up. Let's Verso page here. Perhaps we're going to use this one. Oh no, this is using IO Redis. So we're not using IO Redis. I remember I see it somewhere. I remember I see it somewhere on the Redis website. So I'm going to go here. There, this is it. There it is. So we're going to use this library. As you see on the website that I Google, there's a few more. Um, and they basically do the same thing, just different API. Okay, and some actually has a more convenient API to use than the other. So the first thing that we actually should do would be doing this. We'd be doing this. So just like what we did before, just open the terminal. Make sure that you have CMD. And then we wait a little bit. This is not very big, so it will finish pretty fast. Okay. So this we install Redis library for you. It will go to your node modules. If you look at package.json, now it goes to your dependencies now. Now that we're going back to setting up stuff anyway, so let's create our .env file right now. Okay. First I'm going to create it when we use the environment variable. But anyway, let's just create it now. So um to connect to the database. We basically need to know where our server is. So what we're going to do is you're going to need to provide the URL, the Redis URL at some point, and we will load it up from environment variable. Okay, so you're going to create .env. Make sure that in your git ignore there's an env files set in here so that it won't be committed into your repository. Anyway, if you work in team and you want to share the env file just to make like if you use the same Redis database in your team, if your repository is private and you want this to be in I don't know, just because it's more convenient for you guys to work together, in that case you just need to make sure that this line is not in your git ignore. And actually for this env, you might see that sometimes you have .env.local, .env.prod. Those are for different phase of your development. For example, local will be used for your development. Okay, for only on your machine or something like that. um so but just to simplify thing, I will just use the standard.env. Okay, And what we're going to put in this .env file, yeah, you're going to see my secret again. So basically what you need in here is here you're going to need .env.local here. Let me see. You see it when I copy anyway. So you just click on copy snippet. If what you want to know normal copy, you do show secret. Uh-huh. And then you will just paste it here and save it. This will be your environment variable. Now, this will be environment variable that we are going to use to connect to our database. Actually, here, so this is actually example how you will connect to the Redis SDK. If you are interested in seeing all the example, there are some example in the next project as well if you want to see. Anyway, let's get back to our project. So once you have this environment variable, let's get back to our route handler from right here. So now this should be available. Okay. So actually, wait, I delete something. Okay. So now you're going to import. Well, I think the get Redis client that I was typing before is actually my library, but let's simplify this right now, and then we can put it in to the correct format later. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to import the actual name that we're going to import is create, just like what you see in our Verso page. I just realized that I have a special function when I see the import on the other page. CTE client. Okay, so this will create client. This is, I'm not sure it's a function or function from inside this library. So the whole idea is that it's going to create client Redis client that can connect to the Redis server for you. So let's start doing that. So we're going to create a variable. Okay, so the type of this would be so this going to be syntax in TypeScript that say that this Redis client type can be the return type of create client or no. Okay, and we're going to create a function. So this function is for getting Redis client, and what we are doing is we're going to check that if this not exist. Actually, I can just create it. But then as I showed you before, I make this into a function, and I kind of make this as cover singleton. So basically later on I'm going to move this outside of this route handler. Okay, and we're going to do a count singleton that if this is now we create it, if it's not we return the one that we already created. Okay, so if it's now, we're going to call create client. Okay, and what this need is an object that have URL of the Redis, which is what we put into the .env file few minutes ago. So to access that environment variable, you access this through process.env dot then the name of your variable. Make sure that is the same name. Okay, that one. Okay, this actually, if you put anything into the .env file, you can access the value using the similar pattern. So it's process.env dot and then the variable that you put in there. Okay, so that's it. And then we're going to wait. Redis Diane dot connect. So we just call connect on it. Okay. So if this done, wait. This has to be outside. This when we create it. So we need to create first and then call connect on it. Okay. That's so once this is done, wait. Oh, sorry. We pretty need to connect it. Before it's already correct. So yeah, we need to create. We need to connect. Sorry, guys. Need to create. We need to connect. Okay, and then we can return it. Okay, so we're going to return the version that's already connected to the database. Yeah, just to make sure. Oh, actually, yeah, so that we don't call reconnect. It needs to be in the if, so that we don't connect it several times. Okay, that's good. So now that we have this function, okay, this isn't related to the route handler here. To implement the route handler and allow it to be able to handle requests, you're going to create a function, not a function. You're going to create a set of function. You're going to create a set of function that correspond to the HTTP get and post and put. Okay, so we're going to do that. So because we're going to call a synchronous function here, so basically this is going to still be a synchronous function. So you're going to do so whatever function that you create, your endpoint will be able to handle that. So like if you have get and put, your endpoint will only be able to get and post. Your endpoint will only be able to handle get and post. Put won't there won't be function to handle put requests. Okay. So we're going to do get first just to read the data. Okay. So now we're going to look at our Redis client. So because we're just going to read, okay, we're going to make sure that the key exists first. The real stuff, we doing that later. Okay, so to create a key, you select the type. So here are the type that support for the key value. Okay, so I'm just going to do a string. So this will be a string, basic key value. So key string, value string. You can create a hash. Okay. You can create list. You can create set or sorting set. Just based on whatever you need for your application. So here we do the basic thing because we just need to just read the value. Just make sure we can read the value. Okay. So I just going to make my key call t user. Okay. And the value I would say my name. Okay. So when we going to retrieve thing from Redis, this will be our key. And this will be what we get from it. Okay. So let's do add key. So it will show up here and you can see the value here. So now if I'm access T user, definitely exists because I just put it in. So in get, we're going to call our function. It's a sync function. So we going to await both await them. Okay. And now we should have the client because this is what we create and connect up here. So you can call get on it. So get you need to supply the key. So T user if you forgot T user. Okay. And then we return response JSON tag user. Okay. Now how do we test this? There's a few ways that you can test it. But first thing first, let's run our server. Next video. Wait, I'm in the wrong folder. I need version 2. Okay. So basically you can run it in Visual Studio as usual. I just have this command line open some times ago, so I just decided to continue using it. Okay, so basically you just do npm run dev right here. It will work the same. So let's just test that my server is already running. Okay. To access your endpoint, basically it's just the path. So API, and then I put it at API. Wait, I pretty should put this into. Sorry, I pretty should put this into some folder first, or else I won't have path to it. Sorry, I'm going to do a name called raw no Redis data. Okay, because I need to do API /Redis data, and this router.ts here. let's move it right in there. Okay, so now is our router TS is actually under this part. Let this data. Okay, I will call this so this is what return from my endpoint. Obviously we're not using our part plainly like this. We're going to use this in our component. Okay, and put it up nicely on the UI. Okay. To test the endpoint. To test the endpoint, at this point, it's a get. So it just return the value. You don't need to supply the header or anything to it. So it's pretty easy to test. Later on, when you want to test like a post API, it might be a good idea if you install some tool like Postman. This one, this one. So you can just download the desktop application for Postman. It looks something like this. And this will allow us to test the API easier. So basically here, if I want to test the get, actually it remember, for example here I want to test get with this API, I will just do send and it will show up. If you need to test like post stuff and you need to create headers basically that will contain the data and the body that you need to pass to the API. Okay, this will allow you to create that easier. Okay, so yeah, so basically try installing it. Now, try installing this. Um, some reason I trying to look for the version that I have body. Yes, this one. For example, if you're trying to send something to the server. Okay, so this will help you build that data and it will pass it along for you. So if you have time, while you are like in the middle of something, you can pause the video and try to install the tool. Anyway, let's get back. So now that we have, was this validator.ts? Did I make change? No, I'm not gonna save it. I'm not sure what I did with that. Definitely not something I wanna change. Okay. Um, what did I open? Okay. So now that we have our get request handler on our this route, let's try using it in our component. Okay. So what I'm going to do is under the dashboard, remember that we used to have a task list and we have here task list title here. So basically I'm just going to add a username right here. I'm going to add a username right here. One disclaimer though, for this example, since when we did this component, a while ago, I started doing this as the client component, because we do use effect. We have used client, so it basically is kind of left over from the other example, so it become a client component. Okay. When you use or retrieve stuff, um, it might be better if you use server component and just leave the interaction stuff into the client component. We will do that later. So at this point, I'm going to continue using this client component. Okay. So, but don't clear. Just my disclaimer. Don't stick with this. Okay. I just want to disclaim that this is not a good structuring of the page. Let's say that. But let bear with it from now. Just to keep our task simple. Okay. So here now that we get to this page, we already have this use effect that we retrieve local storage. So do one more. We're going to add one more use effect here because on the client, if we're going to fetch, we're going to use effect. So in use effect, this I want this to run when it start. Okay, and this has to be a function. Okay, so use effect take a function and the criteria. This empty array here means it will run when it start. Okay, so now let's make our function. So we're going to fetch. Fetch what? Our endpoint. Okay. So this is a promise. So then we can do dot then okay. So fetch will return response. So we take in response. And then we will call JSON on it. This again return a request, which we're going to process this again. Okay. It will give us data when you pass it. It will give us an object basically. So we're going to set. I don't have to set right now. Okay, but I will create it later called a task user. So I'm going to type in the set function first, and then we're going to create state later. Okay. Yeah. Set type user. Let me put this in here. But definitely, if there's something else that's still incorrect, I fix it later. So here we're going to create. Let's do it right here. So again, that we do before, we just do use state, and it's just a string. So basically, we initialize it with empty string. It will be much easier than this where we need the initialize function. Okay, let's go back. Okay, that looks good. No, that delete. Let's see this first. Okay. Um, so we're going to type user does not exist. Let me check this a little bit. So I'm going to return red.js. Oh, forget to call function. That's the reason. Okay. .json here is a function, not property. So you need a parenthesis pair here. So what I'm doing here is that I'm just fetch at this particular endpoint. It return a promise. So basically the response object. So this response object, which I call .json on that response object, is again a promise that will return an object that I use to call set task user in the use state. Okay, so as we know, when we call when we change the value of the state, our component will reload. Okay, so we going to when the component reload, it will update the what we see. So here we can use that value in our component. So let's see how it look like at this point. So, wait, it does. Yeah, another disclaimer. Remember that I what I told you, I have auto translation. I didn't set it on this computer, but Chrome just sync it across every single computer. So I have to keep telling it to not translate anything. Okay, so this is actually what you should it is how it should look like. Okay. So if we make change to our database, um for example here, let's edit it. It actually won't reflect on our page here. But if but if we refresh it again, we see the update value. Okay. I'm going to leave the video at this point. When we coming back, we actually going to create the user. Now we're going to go back to the first page here and then add a text for the user to enter the username. And once the button start is pressed, we're going to go to Redis, check if that username actually exists, and then load the task list based on that username. Okay, so see you guys in the next video.